Today we're going to review a monumental info drop that just landed, bringing us the new Greek civilization information, both the epic and legendary heroes' skills, transmutation, a new KVK format. Let's get going. Hello my friends and welcome back. I'm Chiskel Gaming, and it's kind of funny to look at the Greece civilization and its bonuses because a couple days ago I made a video predicting they would be almost exactly this. I was nail on the freaking head, which is why many of you, over 200,000, are subscribed to the channel. So if you haven't already subscribed to the channel to get information and predictions in advance of when things go live, consider subscribing now, and thank you for throwing a like on the video to support the channel. So Greece has 5% infantry health, which I predicted. It's got 5% more rallied army damage, which also I predicted because infantry was the only troop type without having a dedicated civilization for rallies. And I knew that this was already so strong, we would probably get an economic benefit, just like how Egypt has building and research. And boom, here we are, 10% stone gathering speed. I would assume that's because of the stone structures that Greece had made, but I don't know for sure. But I think that this civilization is going to be great for people who rally infantry, and that's it. That is the only reason you pick this civilization, even if you're an infantry player. Otherwise, you would stick to, for example, either Viking, or if you're and that's if you're garrisoning, by the way. If you're a pure fielder, you're going to stick to Ottoman anyways for the march speed and the skill damage. Alternatively, if you really wanted to be infantry and fielding, you could do France, which is giving you 3% health overall and the 20% heal speed. So this is a great rally civilization. The special unit, by the way, has elevated base stats, and those are for attack and defense. If we look at the total base stats and the elevation of them, it's on par with what we have for other civilizations. You're looking at a 7-point boost for attack and also a 5-point boost for defense. That's 12 points total. It actually is kind of on the low end of base stat elevation for the special unit. So I think it's a fine special unit. You're not here for the civilization's special unit anyways. You pick the civilization purely because you rally infantry. That's it. Now from here, we can get a look at the epic and legendary heroes. And yes, these are the community managers for Rise of Kingdoms. Shout out to the community managers for Rise of Kingdoms, by the way, who put together this video on the official Rise of Kingdoms channel. Here are the skills on Pericles. Let's break it down. This commander is epic, and he's got the infantry, garrison, and support trees. Now, the sneaky thing that I like about this and the design of this is that although almost whatever skills are on this guy, it's going to be irrelevant in the end game. Remember that in the early game, if you pick Greece as your starting civilization, you're going to get more sculptures of this hero. And the thing that I really like about that is that it's low-key kind of like moving players who don't know any better into a garrison and having a garrison for their city, which I think is a good thing. So I actually like the design of all these garrison commanders coming out. And I was thinking the same thing when we got Egypt into the game. I was like, man, like another epic garrison commander. But it's, I think, to help new players that kind of don't know what they're doing, that they start with a garrison, so they've got at least something on their wall, okay? So what does he do? He does a shield, and I feel like this is in some ways predictable, that the new infantry will be doing shields because of the design of the hollow square formation. Again, this is perhaps a more advanced topic that if you're subscribed, you know I've covered on the channel, but because the hollow square formation is so focused on shields, I knew that the game would want to release more commanders that do shields so that the hollow square formation kind of makes sense. And if you're wondering, wait, how does the hollow square formation focus on shields? Card will be up in the top if you want the deep dive explaining that more in depth. So this commander, active skill, shield factor of 1000, and the shield also increases the healing their troop receives by 15% and the march speed of their infantry by 20%. What a weird itemization of the sort of punch of this skill, because the general consensus for defending your city is you don't want healing because it just brings back troops that end up dying and because your hospital overflows. So the march speed is also irrelevant. So this is like open field boosts plus 1000 shield factor. I think this is generally on the weak end of what I would call an active skill. That is, I think, weaker than we'd like to see. I would say Sun Tzu, for example, better garrison. From here, let's get a look at the second skill. Infantry led by this commander gain 10% attack, 10% defense. Classic sort of a skill to see on an epic. From here, third skill. When this commander is garrisoned in your city, the garrison deals 10% more damage. That's insane. This is the best epic garrison skill. By such a long shot, it's actually mental. 10% all damage is crazy. Now, this only works when you garrison your city. Not a flag, okay? But that is crazy. And the other thing that's crazy about this is that it's on the third skill. For those of you that are newer to the game, you know, when you unlock stars on a hero, a commander, you unlock more skills, okay? And what I like about this is that you're not getting your garrison skill as kind of the second skill. You're getting it as the third skill. So you can max the first two skills. You can even use the skill lock function to guarantee your points go in these first two skills, give you some nice combat stuff. Then you get your garrison skill, which is the skill you typically would skip. If you're using this commander in the open field, you try to not have your points go here because they don't help you in the open field at all. And if this is your starting commander, then like, yeah, you need him to be good in the field, right? Final skill. Whenever this commander's troop is hit with a normal attack, it has a 10% chance to reduce the attacking troop's normal attack damage by 30% for 3 seconds. This is an internal cooldown of 5 seconds, which means this can only trigger once every 5 seconds for Pericles. Doesn't matter how many people are hitting him. The cooldown is on Pericles, not the other marches. So this is nice when you're getting lightly swarmed. It kind of kicks into high gear. But if you're super swarmed, 12x, I mean, you'd rather have a skill that's doing stuff for you all the time and not on cooldown for every 5 seconds, probably. Now, from here, there is still an expertise skill. And by the way, this means you kind of need to be tanking if you're using Pericles in the open field. From here, the expertise. So this is enhancing the glory of Greece. This is when your active shield... Oh, I guess base your active shield is 700. Oh, I see. I see. So what we read for the active skill is with the expertise already applied. So the active skill without the expertise is 700 shield factor and also 20% march speed. And the active skill with the expertise gives you 300 more shield factor and also gives you the healing boost. I think that overall, he's a decent starting commander, but not changing the meta, probably, for what's used in the open field, nor is he sort of changing the meta too much for what you're going to garrison with, because ultimately, the legendaries are better than these epics pretty quickly. You get your legendary to like 5-5-1-1, that's like maxing the first two skills, for like Charles Martel, and he's going to be better, in my opinion, than Pericles, and you're going to want to pair with Sun Tzu anyways. So Sun Tzu and Martel are going to be your garrison, although I do think that third skill, 10% damage, is crazy. That's very, 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 very good for an epic. So if you had him and you're using Sun Tzu and Pericles, I think that would be super reasonable, and the two of them together are actually very good. Now from here, let's get a look at the next hero or commander, and that's legendary, right over here. Okay, just like that headwear on a goose. Let's freaking go. That's the community manager, by the way. So here is Pyrrhus, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing him correctly. I should have looked this up by now, but whatever. This is the legendary hero. He's going to show up in the gold keys, okay? So the question is, really, how good is he in the early game, and is he going to be viable in the late game? And with the active skill doing a damage factor of 1400 and increasing your attack by 20% for 3 seconds, I think we can solidly say he might be good in the early game, but he's probably not going to be meta in the late game unless his museum buffs are just absolutely insane. So I think he's going to be in the same category of Thutmose as being solid, but not meta for the open field in the end game. He might be viable, and that of course depends on his other skills, and this second skill is really good. It's almost like they've designed this second skill and some of these other skills to be used as auxiliary skills in some of the newer KVK formats, where you can take the skills from one commander and put them onto another one. And if that sounds like craziness, don't worry. If you're in the early game, that's something you get to in KVK Season 4 and beyond. That's Kingdom versus Kingdom. So this second skill gives you 10% health, 15% march speed for your infantry, which is awesome. And on top of that, when you're outside of your alliance's territory, that means you're targeting something that's not in the border of one of your flags or one of your forts or a holy site. When you're outside of territory, you do 20% more normal attack damage. Now remember, normal attack damage in this game boosts the damage you deal to the thing you're directly targeting and boosts the damage you deal back to all the things hitting you. That's counterattack. So that is a really good skill. And again, just an incredible auxiliary skill for future sort of KVKs. From here, the third skill, infantry units led by this commander gain 20% attack while on the map. What does that mean? Not in a city, not in a resource node, not in a flag, okay, when you're on the map walking around. Also, whenever your troop launches an attack, it has a 10% chance to gain a shield. That is a shielding factor of 500. That lasts for 3 seconds, and there's an internal cooldown of 8 seconds. So once every 8 seconds, you can get this shield. That is a great ability. It only triggers when you attack something else. So this doesn't scale up when you're getting swarmed, for example. So infantry, as I was saying earlier, are moving in on shielding effects, even though this one isn't particularly powerful. It's there. From here, this commander's troop takes 20% less skill damage. That is amazing. That is very, very, very good. Skill damage, especially area of effect damage, is big. Maybe not in the early KVKs, so it's kind of funny that he does this and he's most relevant in the early KVKs. But once you get to bigger and bigger brawls, it's all about area of effect skill damage. But in addition, if he has a shield, their troop deals 10% more damage. Hello? So you want this guy to be shielded. It's almost like you want to pair with like Charles Martel primary and then use him as the secondary, right? Get those shields rolling. And then finally, the expertise here. Whenever this commander's troop is hit with a normal attack, it has a 10% chance to reduce the attacking troop's attack by 30% for 3 seconds, cooldown of 8 seconds. That means that is the internal cooldown of this ability. It can only trigger once every 8 seconds. It does not matter how many things are hitting him with normal attacks. Remember, a normal attack is when he is directly targeted by an enemy, and so this really does scale up if you're getting swarmed. Because otherwise, 10% chance, and it's not going to happen all that much with an 8-second internal cooldown. How do I feel about reducing the attack by 30%? I mean, it's good, but this expertise skill is not so good that you're like, wow, I need to go out of my way to max this commander because he completely changes. Nah, I would not say that at all. Now, in the end game, it's going to depend entirely, again, on the museum and his museum buffs. What are they going to be, and are they going to be enough? And I generally think that a 1400 damage factor commander is not going to make the end game cut. So hopefully you've been saving your gold keys so you can at least get some skills onto this commander. And if you're not using him in the open field, consider starring him all the way up to 4 stars and having your skills kind of land randomly, or just wait until you're in a KVK that has auxiliary skills. And then if you see that one of these skills is the auxiliary skill, you can then deploy the skills to try to get them all to land on the skill of your choice, okay? I'm going to be opening up literally thousands of gold keys to pull for him, and we'll see what else we get. I probably have like 6,000 plus gold keys saved up, maybe more, maybe like 8,000. I don't know at this point across all my accounts. So if you haven't already, consider subscribing. The crazy thing is, we're not even done yet. So there's a bunch of events that are going to land, which includes a bunch of Greece launch events. That includes a sign-in event where ultimately you will get a full unlock of the new legendary commander. That includes an event that I predicted, by the way. If you subscribe to the channel, you knew we'd get this style of event with a primary currency and a secondary currency. And you can get a city theme, which if you're spending could be worth. We'll have to get a look at what that city theme does. In fact, I think I have pictures. I think this is it. Cavalry health at the cost of archer attack is a very, very, very good theme. If you are a cavalry player, then this is a great pickup. The Sacred Sanctuary. And pretty much everyone rallies barb forts, right? So I use a 5% cavalry health theme on my infantry account when I'm not fighting, because I rally barb forts and I battle barbs mostly with cavalry, you know, as long as I have enough of them. And so I think that this is a really good city theme pickup, especially if you are a newer player. Do I think the 5% health is better than the 10% defense you can get in the end game from the Season of Conquest shop? No. I think the defense is fine, and also you get resource production on that passively, which is quite nice. So this is a great pickup, however, for newer players to the game, for sure. There's also going to be a content-related event where you submit content and you can win. I think it's a statue of Leonidas, which is kind of crazy, the Music and Muses event. But let's get back into the KVK goodness. Storm of Stratagems is the new KVK format. This KVK format features a number of things, including a team-up phase, much like the Nile KVK format has. In addition, you choose stratagems, which is also very similar to the strategies that you do in the Nile KVK. And we've got some pictures of how that works. And I actually like the stratagems in some ways more than the Nile KVK's design. And I love the Nile's KVK design of having things that you pick as bonus abilities, but this is better. Why? So there are leadership, warfare, support, and universal categories of stratagems. And you pick a folio, which is a collection of those stratagem types. The beginner's folio gives you one of each, okay? And then the last one is universal. I guess you could put anything there. The Kingdom's Chronicles, or I guess the KVK's Chronicles, will evolve, unlocking different types of folios. So you could have more of the red type stratagems if you wanted, okay? And in general, you can go all the way up to 5. There's also the Battle Master's folio, 2 red, 2 purple, which is probably what most fighters are going to be using. The Guardian folio has 2 green and 2 universal. That's very interesting, okay? I guess that is very interesting. Yeah, the Battle Master's folio lets you take a lot of abilities for war, which is, and this is just almost certainly what you're going to pick, because here's how it goes. The different stratagem folios have different numbers and types of slots. Universal slots can be equipped with any of the stratagems. You can change your equipped stratagems and folio for free once every 70 hours. So it's very infrequent. That's like once every 3 days. And then while waiting for your free stratagem change to reset, you can also use stratagem points to change your equipped stratagems and stratagem folio up to 2 times. So if we look at these abilities now, and you'll understand like, oh, cool. So this gives you bonuses that are very powerful. Here are the leadership-based ones. And this says, whenever one of your rallied or garrison troops is in combat with an enemy, both your troop and the enemy will deal 1% more damage to each other after every 20 seconds of combat, up to 100%. This effect will reset if your troop switches targets. Why would you do this? Well, if you're trying to rush down the enemy, you try to make it so they can't fill the garrison anymore because you're crazy swarming, right? This makes the rally and the garrison do so much damage that the combat just goes really fast. I think if you're the overdog, Decisive Battle does exactly what's advertised in the name. Now, you'll notice that each of these stratagems declares what it does. This is additional damage, damage reduction. So they have a sort of short description as well to sort of help you understand, like, hey, what are these abilities doing for me? Here is the warfare tree, which is obviously very powerful. And I say that because, like, it's a war game, folks. Like, these need to be primarily what you're pulling from as a category. This one is Common Foe. Whenever one of your troop buffs another troop, it gains a shield of 700 factor. And it lasts for 5 seconds, and each of your troops can trigger this effect once every 10 seconds. Well, that is deceptively good. I've got a Trajan March that's going to get shields. William March is getting shields. Joan Prime is getting shields. Even Skippy Prime puts shields onto friendly troops. Now, I don't know if this is going to stack with Skippy Prime, but like the more you start to think about, hey, wait a minute, like I got a lot of troops that buff other troops. Common Foe is an interesting one, and this is just one of the many stratagems that are available. The support ones, looks like there's a couple combat things in here. Dog Eat Dog all the way on the left, and One Heart, One Mind are going to be, I think, pretty solid. But some of these are obviously very much economy-based. Also, there's hospital buffs in here, which could be very critical as well. So this looks like a cool system, and actually, I think I will like this better than I like the Nile system. The Nile system is amazing, and I actually am a huge fan of it, but you have to go down this sort of tree of different buffs in the Nile version of KVK, and this just lets you pick from a variety of buffs. So that's the big difference, is you don't have any prerequisites to get the one you want. You can just pick what you want, and that is really cool. So I like the system a lot for the new KVK format, okay? In addition, this new KVK format has counter rallies launching immediately. So this is also a situation where, I don't know, actually a counter rally is a terrible idea to have that skill where you deal more damage and your target deals more damage, right? I'd have to look at the wording more closely, but you definitely don't want the thing you're rallying doing more damage to your garrison. Yikes. Whatever. Counter rallies, instant, very cool. Once everybody arrives to the city where the rally is set at, they launch. Here's the map, though. And this map looks pretty cool. What I think is going to happen, okay, is I think you're going to have fighting at the start into the side zones here and here, okay? So each zone has a neighbor to the left and right that it can invade, okay? The green zone has this zone to the right and the one to the left that's also bordering this sort of, I guess, starred in yellow. So I think your first zone fight, you can pick who you want to fight. And then all of those zones, I assume, enter into the middle zones. Could that be the case? Let's see. The side zones, you've got 2 of them that can go into the bottom, 2 of them that could go into this one. I think that's right. Although the thing is that on the left side and the right side, you have 3 zones that dump into 1 in that case. So maybe that's not the design. I'm going to have to do some thinking onto what the sequence of pass openings is going to be for this map. I'm sure that with enough looking, you can figure this out. I just haven't had the chance yet to do it. But I do like that this map has some big zones that you get to fight in, okay? And the bigger the zone, in my opinion, the better. I dislike when a KVK lets you set up forts at a pass before the fight, because then you're just sitting there for 3 days, kind of... I don't know. I just think that's the least exciting combat in the game, is when an enemy is already set up in a zone compared to when you build into a zone. It's just the entire zone is new and fresh and everybody's building into the fight. I love that, man. The last thing we got to talk about is transmutation. And this is big. Once you get into about KVK Season 2 or on your way to that, you get access to formations and also armaments. And the big problem with armaments is you could end up with bad modifiers on the armament. Now, this is an amazing armament. If I had this armament, I would be so happy, because it's got combo and iron wall, which is 2 inscriptions, and also it's got infantry attack, infantry defense, and all damage. This is basically already perfect. You would never reroll this. However, if you had, an armament that had combo and iron wall, it's got these 2 amazing inscriptions, but it had like gathering speed boost and troop load and barb damage. That's where you want to transmute to get different buff effects, which is really powerful. So it shows you what each of these slots could change into, which is nice. And you could see, like, you could easily have ended up with siege unit attack or gold gathering, and you would want to reroll it to something else, right? The cost, if you reroll everything, is 1 transmutation stone, but you can lock different attributes. So if you lock 1 attribute, it costs you 3 transmutation stones. If you lock 2 attributes, it costs you 5 transmutation stones. So the cost really ramps up, and you can only transmute 10 total times on any one armament. So there's still a lot of value to pulling a good armament, because it's not infinite that you get to reroll. It's very, very limited, which I think is not a bad thing. I mean, if you look at a game like Diablo, okay, the way that they have rerolls, if I remember correctly, and it's been a long time, because we're talking Diablo 3, not Diablo 4. I know, I'm like, Chisco, why are you talking about Diablo 3 when Diablo 4 is out? But I feel like you could reroll or gamble there, and the cost would go up and up and up and up, and it kind of went up infinitely until it was just way, way, way too expensive to be doing. It was, like, unreasonable. Here, they're basically saying, all right, well, you can reroll, but you can only do it 10 times. So at some point after you've done your 10 rerolls, if you still have bad stats, then the armament is at that point actually bad. And you can only do these transmutations, these rerolls, on legendary inscribed armaments. And before you go, whoa, well, I got all these epics, like, I definitely get it. I got a lot of epics that had bad modifiers as well, bad attributes. But these are a very limited currency. You get 15 of these, I think, per week. Remember, this is on a patch realm, so I would assume that this is what will be in the final game, but we don't know. And they even say details are subject to the official updating game. So before we get too hyped about the price and the number, remember, this could change. Now, if we look at the cost here, it looks like everything else is priced out as it currently is in game. So hopefully this is, in fact, the actual cost and the actual number, because that would mean that you get 15 rerolls on an armament that's like just straight bad and you're rerolling everything, which is kind of amazing. And they cost you 30 silver currency, which I feel like is a fair price. Like, you already know the armament you're going to reroll for has amazing inscriptions. That's why you're re-rolling it, 1 or 2 inscriptions. So, I mean, yeah, I think the cost here is actually fair. Like, I think you get more value almost certainly from a transmutation stone than you do of the formation chest, even though it's 50% more expensive. I actually think this is a pretty good price for what you're getting. I could be wrong, but let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. But I would not underestimate how powerful the transmutation stones are. Once you have some good armaments with like insane inscriptions that you want to re-roll, even free-to-play players have these. These transmutation stones are a super hot commodity. And this also solves the problem of silver currency being not really worth much after a certain point. Like, you can just have a ton of it. I feel like, again, the priority for me, and I think for others, should probably be these transmutation stones once you have a nice body of armaments, okay? Lastly, I've got a picture here of them showing that after you do this, you can choose tap replace to accept the new attributes. I don't know what you tap if you don't want to accept the new attributes, though. I guess you just X out and then you cancel it. But okay, yeah, wild. This is a big update. Here's the details that I've already kind of reviewed on transmutation, and I think this covers everything they talked about in this patch note. But if you made it to the end of the video, I am going to give you a bonus tip. This bonus tip, we're just putting our mark in the sand that Chiscool Gaming predicted this. And he predicted this a year before the release of the next Cavalry civilization. That's right, Chiscool Gaming is calling the shot. I bet you that 1 year from now, we're getting a Cavalry civilization. This is because we got Vikings, then we got Egypt, then we got Greece. There has been no Cavalry civilization for 3 years. The first Cavalry Cav Civ we got was, I believe, Arabia, right? When we got Arabia, that is when we got a Cav Civ. So we're overdue. So not only are we getting a Cavalry Civ, but I'm going to predict the buffs here, okay? Now, at this moment in time, I'm not quite ready to do the determination between attack, defense, and health. In fact, let me jump in game. Maybe we will guess this. Okay, today we've got Germany that gives attack, and also they've got their Teutonic Knight. Very good. We've got, not Korea, Spain, that gives defense. Okay, and we've got some resource-based stuff. Arabia is the Rally Civ that gives attack. Byzantium gives health. All right, so I think we're going to get defense or health. And I think what we're going to get is something that works for garrisoning or fielding. Like, what I think is we're going to get the equivalent of the Ottoman Empire, but for cavalry, okay? That's what I think we're going to get. Is it going to have march speed? It could even have march speed. I mean, we don't have a cavalry civ with march speed. So I think we're going to get defense, march speed, and maybe normal attack damage boost, okay, of like 2%, something like that. And that'll work in a garrison. It could be like an all damage boost, which would be pretty crazy. But I think it's going to be sort of the equivalent of like a Viking, which gives 3% counterattack, or Ottoman, which gives that march speed and skill damage. And again, to my knowledge, we've got our infantry march speed over here, right? We've got our archer march speed over here. I think we're getting cavalry march speed and also a slight damage boost that will work in a garrison, and it'll be the new garrison civ. That's my guess. But let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, throw a like on here. If you want to see my review of some of the best armaments that you should be looking at inscribing, or I guess transcribing, changing those attributes around on, I'll have a card in the end screen explaining my thoughts on that process. Also, if you just want to see a review of like, hey, what are the best civilizations for war? Card will be in the end screen for that in just a second.